Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Unfiltered Wrestling Podcast. I am joined by Team. Hi, Team. How you doing, mate?
Hi, Liam. Not too bad. Feeling a little bit deflated, shall we say?
Yeah, it's been a weird weekend. So obviously we had Wrestlepalooza, but before we get into that, we've got a bit of dealings of SmackDown for Friday night to deal with. Now, Team, you've got a little bit of issue with SmackDown. So what's been the issue?
Okay. My big issue with SmackDown is how many times do we have to advertise the ESPN app and how to access it? I know there was a lot of conversations at the start of it when people were worried they'd end up having to pay £30 for the PLE, but you only need to tell them once how to install the app and how to use it. R-Truth was used twice, and they reran the same Cody interview video twice as well. That's 4 times on how to use an app. It wasn't rocket science. It wound me up, and this is probably my big bugbear of the weekend.
Yeah, and like I said, obviously WWE were trying to get everyone onto the ESPN app because obviously on Saturday night we had Wrestlepalooza. Now, I left Wrestlepalooza after watching it quite deflated, and I think that was the build-up because we had ESPN coming out virtually saying it was going to be their WrestleMania, and we had Triple H tweeting expect surprises. And in my opinion, we pretty much got a Raw or a SmackDown show. What was your overall thoughts before we get into the matches?
I thought, right. Well, that was how I came away from the whole event. Firstly, the event lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes, and we got 5 matches. And of those 5 matches, 1 match was a squash match. The PLE should not have been that amount of time, and I didn't think the matches were overly long, but just such bad pacing from start to finish. Right? If you're going to have these 5 matches, which were great stories to tell, and let's remember, we were originally supposed to get the women's triple threat match that's now on SmackDown next week, go on to this PLE. It's just bad pacing from start to finish. And it's been pointed out to me, 1 SmackDown match. On the whole PLE, 1 SmackDown match. Are we starting to relegate SmackDown onto its own level now?
Talking about the beginning, so obviously we had the return of Pat McAfee, which we knew was coming because the internet had been wild about it. And even Wade made that point when Michael Cole was acting so surprised that he hadn't spoken to Pat recently and didn't know he was going to be there. I do like Michael Cole's little comeback after Wade said, well, we should check the internet. And then Michael was like, well, the internet said you were sacked and you're still here. I thought that was a nice little comeback by Michael Cole. But one thing I found strange, Pat only stayed for about an hour.
He only stayed for 3 matches. It felt really weird, especially after what had happened on SmackDown with Corey Graves. I thought we'd get a better storyline to that, and that went nowhere. The commentary team have all been all over the place for weeks now, and I don't... Is he coming back? Was this a one-off? I didn't think he was particularly... his best work was Wrestlepalooza either.
I think the issue is, so Pat, obviously, when he left, he said obviously he's getting tired because obviously doing all the college stuff plus the WWE thing. But I think he was the part that brokered this deal with Indiana. Now, obviously, we know these deals for these Indiana shows happened last year. So I think Pat, in a way, has got a contractual agreement to sort of help push it. So I think he kept his obligation. But I think, like you said, because even the way Triple H greeted him as he was walking through to go to commentary was a little bit over the top, all the arm round and the back. Like, he was like, I think they're trying to sweet talk Pat to maybe do a bit more. But as you said, he didn't seem on his best. I think he it felt like he was there because he had to be there, not because he wanted to be there.
Yeah, and again, I imagine the guy's got such a busy schedule. That's not a big deal. My worry is SummerSlam next year is in Indiana. Are we going to get, or Indianapolis, are we going to get this again? Is he going to pop out for this and do a full show, a half show, day one, day two? As I said to you, I think the commentary system in WWE at the moment is really, really wonky.
So obviously that was what happened with Pat. But before Pat arrived, we got this big video package from ESPN and WWE with Triple H in the ring after. What did you think of the video package?
Video package was great. As always with WWE, they produce great video packages. It hyped you up. You were all ready for the event. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is going to get really good. And then the PLE kicked off and we just went downhill for most of it.
Yeah, so we started off with the match that we all knew was happening. The never-to-be-seen squash match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena. So obviously we had Brock come out first. Cena come out with a bunch of kids, hyped everyone up, which was great. And then we had a nice little touch. Paul Heyman. I thought Paul was very clever because he didn't introduce himself as the advocate for Brock Lesnar. He just introduced Brock Lesnar and he'd done a little spin on John Cena's never seen 17 routine. I thought that was quite nice, but then Paul just disappeared. And then that shambles of a match kicked off.
Okay. Again, you go back to the Brock Lesnar callback from what happened on SmackDown when Brock says to Paul, we need to talk, which I thought was hyping up for something. I didn't expect it to be a ring entrance. I liked it. I thought it was really clever. I liked where John immediately started pulling on the heartstrings of everybody by bringing out all these kids and surrounding him. Because you're immediately going, oh, yes, John, you're so superb. And unlike you, I won't call the match a shambles. What I will call it is very peculiar.
Yeah, so we got, as we keep saying, we got the squash. I think Cena got 3 AAs in. Brock done 3 or 4 suplexes, and then I think it was 5 F5s before the pin. And then obviously an F5 to the ref, and then one more to John. I don't get what anyone got out of this match.
You and I, but I'd said to you, was we were doing our predictions video, I said, nobody gets anything out of this match. Doesn't matter who wins this match. Nothing gets said, done and dusted. For me, looking back at it, it was probably the best way to get out of the whole situation. It was a bad idea from day one. If you want to protect Brock, if you're going to do something with him, this makes sense. John Cena's AA doesn't work. But I'm reminded very much of the WrestleMania between Drew and Brock, where it lasted, 5 or 6 minutes, and it was Claymore kick, Claymore kick, Claymore kick, F5, Claymore kick. Oh, good. Bang, bosh, done. Woohoo. Drew wins his first world title. This just felt like that. I thought, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only way I could think around it, obviously, John ain't got many dates left, and we know his body is battered and bruised. That's why he's moving away from wrestling. And he didn't away. I know he took a lot of bumps, but he didn't really have to do much. So that protects John and John's body. And this, if they're going to do stuff with Brock moving forward, this reintroduces him to the WWE universe, and it introduces him to the new fans for ESPN. And in a way, it does. I know we said the build-up was a bit comical and it weren't good for a serious match, but we got a serious Brock. That's a good way to reintroduce him to the audience.
I mean, let's say he's back, and he's back to some sort of full-time routine, whatever you want to call it.
As full-time as you can get for Brock. So.
Yeah, that's it. He's not going to be. He's going to work less days than Roman Reigns, and that says a lot, really. He probably did need to be promoted, and if we're looking at matches in which he'll probably go to, you've still got the Gunther match that people have been talking about for a while. if he's here, I want to see him take on Bron Breakker. Just purely and simply because that match will be like absolute fire. Yeah, I think there are a couple of guys I wouldn't mind seeing, but yeah, this is just, it was a bad idea from day one and it hasn't been executed very well.
Talking about Bron Breakker, we had the Brons versus the Usos next. On the pre-show, we did get the introduction of LA Knight as the special guest referee. When I saw and heard this, I thought, okay, Tim's predictions coming true. LA Knight's turning heel. We didn't really get that. We got an okay match. Jay sort of beat himself up with a chair, busted himself open with a chair, and only Jey Uso could do that.
I heard LA Knight tell Bron Breakker, spear him now. Right. I think I've heard the internet say he's probably suffered a concussion, because I sat and watched it and thought, and saw the amount of blood, because it's almost like on the level of like the Eddie Guerrero, like Bradshaw. I thought, has he bladed too deep? It just came out of nowhere. I don't even know what he managed to do so much damage. They're bringing this match to a close pretty quickly. I liked the ending. I liked the fact that Bron spears both of them through the table. The LA Knight idea kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't. It's another one of those really weird, huh? Okay, then.
I think it's an hour to sort of show because of LA Knight still sort of favoured Jimmy. He let Jimmy get away with a bit more than everyone else. So it shows he's got respect for Jimmy. Obviously doesn't respect Jay, and he's not great pals with the Brons. So I think it's just still leading all that up. I think Bronson and Bron have got to go for the tag team gold now. The idea of the double spear through the table, I don't think visually it looked great, but I think that's more to do with the way the table fell. I don't think it was positioned well enough to get that crack with it falling. I think it was too upright.
We've been singing the praises of Bron Breakker here since we started the channel. It's not stopped. He looks great. Bronson Reed almost gets better each week. But I'm with you. I think you've got to put the gold on him now.
Yeah, and obviously, I can't remember if we did, but I know a lot of people thought it's the Usos' first match back together. They've got to give the Usos the win. I actually think it was a good decision not to give them the win. And yeah, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I felt the Vision needed the victory more than the Usos. Usos are protected. I think what we're going to get now is probably a Jey Uso LA Knight feud going down that way. Take them away from the Vision for a little while. Maybe you do round 2 for the belts and it goes a little bit more sensibly. I was very surprised because the match was essentially a really weird hardcore match. That this is the first time they're in together, and we've gone to a stipulation match almost immediate. I know it wasn't, but it was. I mean, it's very close to a WCW 2000s referee decisions, but it felt like we could have done a wrestling match first of all.
After that, we led into the women's title match. I like this match, but I don't know if it was the crowd. See, I felt thin throughout the night. The crowd didn't really seem into the night. They seemed into moments, but I didn't get. There was lots of quietness. I don't know, in a weird way, because you know me, I'm a visual guy and stuff. But having those boards behind the first 6 rows and then seeing the rest of the crowd made it feel like it was quite separated. So I didn't get that. And I don't even know, really stupid for like the distance between the ring and the front row was a little bit longer than what's previously been happening lately. Because it seems like they've been in the crowd closer to the ring, and this seemed like quite a distance. And then I don't know if it's when we've been used to the European tours with how hot the crowds have been, but then this didn't then really excite me. And as I said, I thought the match was okay, but again, pacing was a little bit off for me. There was a couple of slow moments, I feel, throughout the match.
Well, Lee, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Okay, you're not wrong for the crowd. The crowd were absolutely dead for the start of this match. And yes, I think that takes a little bit of an effect to it. But I think the match was fantastic. It's what I said it would be. Said it would be a very good match. What you got to remember is the pacing of the match was, for me, perfect. You needed it to be slow. You needed it then to spike up for a bit. And that's when the crowd should then get involved a little bit and then slow it back down and spike, and you're getting somewhere. I thought the pace of the match was really good. I thought both women were excellent, but the crowd definitely, they played an impact on the match.
And I've got to take my hat off to Io for her selling of that knee, just every so often whacking the knee, because she was just feeling her selling was fantastic throughout the match. I believe that at one point she did get the end of her leg, because she was doing what a lot of people do when you've hurt something and you're going off adrenaline, you whack where you're hurt just to try and get it moving, and she's done that quite a lot. The pin, though, I'm a little bit. At first, I thought it was like a double pin. I think Stephanie's over length, and it looked like shoulders as well.
I thought the pin was good. I thought the moves. I mean, when Io's hitting a Spanish fly, I can't remember last time I saw Io hit a Spanish fly. That was fantastic. Both women were bringing out some of the best stuff, and they were kicking out of finishers. The SVB got kicked out of. The Over the Moonsault got kicked out of. It was going to take something different, and I quite like the fact that we did I think it's the spinal tap or something like that, where you're doing a moonsault over the top whilst rotating in midair. It's not quite. It looked amazing to me. I thought she clocked her quite hard with that one. I looked at that and thought, oh, Io's going to feel that one in the morning. I thought the pinfall it looked better. Io didn't look like she was kicking out of nothing at that point.
Yeah, but we obviously predicted Stephanie win, which was great, but we had no Asuka interference or anything like that. We thought was going to move the story forward. Now, we know, which I totally forgot about, Crown Jewel, it's champ versus champ. So we know that Steph is going to face whoever wins out the triple threat. But do you then think they then holding off on Io and Asuka because there's no point trying to push that program when you've got a champ versus champ match? And that's why.
Yes. Yeah. Looking back at it, in fact, if you were to put Io and Asuka on the same team and watch it to film, as I say, War Games, that makes sense. That's a really good point. Yeah, I'm with you. I'd forgotten we were going to do the brand warfare at Crown Jewel. So, yeah, it was. I'm glad that she won. I think she deserves the credit, and I liked the way in which the match at the end, both women were very respectful with each other. It wasn't, oh God, so upset you won. They were both respectful, and I think that meant that both women come out of this looking good. I am partly disappointed that we didn't do the Asuka thing. But as I said, I thought the match was really good, and I think you can get away with it when it's that good.
And that still leaves the door open for Raw tonight for Asuka to be, look, you told me not to interfere, I did interfere, look what happened to you. And then that can still leave Asuka and Io either to butt heads or have to team together. So that still leaves the storyline open for Raw later. And then that then led into, which I personally think was match of the night, which is so much better than I thought it was going to be, and that was the intergender tag match. Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. Now, I think Becky and Seth played the first half of this match blinding as the heel tag team. They did everything that a heel tag team would do, and I think it really helped build up the match. At one point during that time, I was thinking, right, we know that Punk and AJ's going to win, but I actually want Seth and Becky to win now because the work they're putting in was fantastic.
Yeah, I liked the match, but for me, it was a lot of moments rather than all the story. I love the fact that Becky and Seth both come out in those purple whatevers. They looked brilliant. The entrance was really fun. I think both of these two, both Becky and Seth, really have been carrying the company for years as for hard workers. Seth certainly has been the best male wrestler probably for the last 10 years, I would say. I know people are probably going to disagree with that, and I'm all right with that. But he's been carrying the company for a long time. So,
So,
yes, they told great stories.
yeah, I was going to say, because for me, the whole sort of thing of the match was them cutting off Punk to get that hot tag. That was the story of the match. So, again, I don't think there was moments. I think the story played in well, because when AJ did get the tag, then all hell broke loose. The only thing I think, and I think it's not their fault because they don't do many of these matches, but there was points where, so AJ got tagged in, and there wasn't another tag after that, but then the ref was counting some of Seth and Punk's moves on each other, and I'm thinking to myself, they're not the legal people, so it don't matter. The girls were the legal people for the rest of the match. So if you're going by the rules that once there's a tag in, you've got to stay with that gender, then whatever Punk and Seth were doing in the ring with the pinfalls or submissions, it shouldn't have counted. And I've got an issue with Jessica, the referee, anyway. She's in a very aggressive ref, which I think can sometimes take the spotlight away from what's going on. And she was annoying me throughout the match as well, anyway.
No, I don't mind her as a referee. I think she's really good. What you've got to remember is actually Becky didn't tag into the match.
But she did, but AJ did. So then Becky's got to come in.
Yep, but by the same rules, Seth hasn't tagged in, so maybe CM Punk should still be the blow. I like that. If you're going to play that rule, you can then play it off and say, so are the men the legal men, are the legal people, or are the women the legals? And that's what I'm saying. The referee, when I say moments, the first part of the match is great storytelling. After that, it's double this, double that, double,
it was a spot
we'll
fest.
do this.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about it being moments. I think, and it's while we say it's not an intergender match, it's a mixed tag match. As you say, you can only wrestle the same sex. This is what I mean about moments, and those moments were fantastic. Whether it be the double pedigrees or the double shining wizards, the dueling submission moves, these are all great, but at the time they didn't make a huge amount of sense in the story. It just kind of flitted around, and that's what I mean about it just being a lot of moments.
And what did you think of the ending? I think it was very clever to do that table spot. The way the table fell, though, AJ did it a bit harder than I think she was predicted. It was a bit delayed.
I thought when she landed, I thought, oh crap, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot. I thought it was really clever. I then like the fact that Becky throws her in and then tries, and then she's put in a Black Widow. I'm glad that AJ Lee won via submission rather than pinfall. That was important to me. I think that makes her character look that little bit much more better.
And I also think it's going to play into the storyline to set up the Intercontinental match, because that's the first time Becky's tapped in 6 years.
Is it really 6 years?
Yeah, so I see a stat today. I think it's either 2018, 2019, but it might be 7. But that's the first time Becky's tapped in that amount of time. So I think that's going to play heavily into the storyline for the build-up for the Intercontinental belt.
Yeah, I think, as we both said, I think AJ Lee probably, I'm now with you and think she's going to take that offer.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a great match. I think both women, when they were together, had good chemistry. And again, I don't know, as I keep saying, our Punk and Seth slowly becoming friends because they put on magic together as well. And I really look forward to the way the story's going to continue. But again, and we're going to lead into this for the main event, Seth's now got to have a little program with the winner of the last match, which we announced when we get to the ending, because of the crown jewel stipulation. So maybe the Punk thing's got to go on the back burner for the next 3 weeks.
I'm going to throw you an even bigger. It's been announced that he will do Good Morning on ESPN Monday mornings. He's going to be shattered. I think they're going to protect him spectacularly now. I think he's got about 7 appearances. Right. And that's going to have a huge impact on him.
No, 100%, yeah. So, yeah, they've got to protect him a bit, like you said. That led into like a weird segment because we've got the American Badass on his motorbike. And I was just thinking to myself, hang on, what the hell is Undertaker just turning up on his motorbike? And then obviously he sits next to Steph. And some people say this is a work. I think this was not a work. I don't think she genuinely knew. But he announced her into the Hall of Fame. Do you think it's good one that Steph's in? And how WWE going to skirt around that Vince McMahon's her dad?
Let's go with the first thing first. The Undertaker coming out to American Badass rather than Rolling says a lot. If we're listening to Kid Rock from 2000 rather than Limp Bizkit, ooh, it's got to be some royalties going around somewhere. That was my first thought. That she's getting in that she's then being inducted. I think she deserves it. If you've been watching wrestling for as long as we have, she's had a huge impact. I'm fully aware she didn't create the women's revolution. Please, internet, don't go mad at me, that one. I'm aware that's the case. But she did a lot of character work in the early 2000s, late 1990s. We had the Helmsley McMahon era before they were even a couple. I think there's a lot of people that will disagree, but I actually think she deserves it. As for the Vince McMahon issue, as much as we dislike what's happening with him, and he will, whatever happens to him, because you and I are not legal professionals, we can't forget the impact that the McMahons have had on the business. I don't think it's going to be as big a deal that she's a McMahon.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think she fully deserves it because even I've seen documentaries of the work she used to do behind the scenes when she's like 14, 15, setting up the magazine and stuff like that. She's always been involved. Like you said, the McMahon Helmsley era, and even when Triple H was first COO of the company and you had the power couple, all that stuff with Daniel Bryan, she was a big part of why that led to his moment at WrestleMania 30. Stuff with Jericho I used to love. So, yeah, I definitely think she deserves it.
Question is, who does induct her? Because it feels a little bit weird for Triple H to be the one to do it. I would like to see them get a little bit creative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. But they've got to organise it. So, moving on from that, we then got the main event. So, the returning Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. Now, with the Undertaker stuff and how long the Punk match went on, this didn't leave much time. And I think they didn't tell the story correct of how they wanted to, that Cody was a bit hazy from what happened on SmackDown at the contract signing. Because I think it was after about 2 moves, Cody shook his head and Wayne was like, yeah, I was about to say he's been a bit off for the night. And I'm sitting there thinking, this match has only been on for like 4 minutes. How can you say he's been a bit off? So I think they were trying to tell a story, but didn't have the time to do it in.
Yeah, I had high expectations of this match. I really did. I thought both guys are two of the best in the business at the moment, and they swung and they missed for me. I liked the story that they were trying to tell, but like you, Wade's turning around saying, "Oh, he's got a fuzzy head as he's walking around doing that." That's a great story. I don't know. I just didn't feel like I was connected at all with the match. I don't know whether it's because Cody's been away for a while and people are saying, oh, he's been champion for 49 days, but he was away for 5 weeks. So that's 35 days. So he's been actually been champion for 2 weeks, genuinely in storyline.
And that was his first title defence in SummerSlam. So, but immediately after, I was a bit like, because obviously Cody won, oh, that was rubbish and all that. But then go back thinking about it, storytelling wise, it's perfect for both characters. Drew's got this paranoid everyone's against me story, and the ref done him over twice in the match. So therefore, that can continue Drew's character building of everyone's against him. And we had to have Cody win for Seth because we couldn't have heel versus heel when when Seth and Drew haven't really got any needle between each other anyway. Because we know that's the next big match at Crown Jewels. So you had to have heel versus face. It's wrestling 101, good versus bad. So it makes sense now what happened. I just think, like you said, the connection weren't there, the match was rushed, and the storytelling didn't come off as good as it should have. But for the bigger picture, it made sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think you make really good points. I think they're all really valid. I think it's also worth mentioning, I said to you, I didn't think Cody was dropping the belt, but they could have done a really, like, and I would have been really annoyed, but I was expecting sort of like a double count out or a double disqualification or something that protected Cody whilst also showing him getting his ass kicked. They didn't do that. They have told a great story for Drew because he's going to get a round two. It would be crazy to think this is going to be a one and done. He's going to get a round two, and I think that's when he takes the belt.
And I think they've done the leg injury, so he can be off TV for a couple of weeks to allow Seth and Cody's story to build. Because if you keep Drew in on the picture, saying, I need my title shot, it just makes things very confusing. So the fact that he's injured, because I see clips of him after that he was even carried out up the aisle by the ref. I know for a fact we probably ain't going to see Drew this week. You could probably get away with keeping him off TV for 2 weeks. They only need 3 weeks to get to Crown Jewels. So I actually think, again, it all made sense. That weren't my initial reaction. And again, I think that goes back to what I said at the beginning of the episode. My expectation level was up there and it delivered down there.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I had high expectations. I don't think they delivered anywhere near as much as I would have. I wonder, could we have had the women's triple threat match, whether that would have changed my opinion? Again, this match, as I say, this match was such a letdown. Both of these guys can do much better, and I'm hoping they will do better second time around. For me, this is one of Cody's worst matches since coming back. That's how bad I thought it was.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Well, Tim, I know it's going to be hard this week, but we've got to ask you the 2 questions. What was Tim's match of the night?
For me, you and I are going to disagree, but it was Io and Stephanie Vicaire.
And obviously, I'm going to say Punk and Seth. And who was your top talent of the night?
Could be here bloody hours trying to work this one out this week. I'm loath to give it to Brock Lesnar, purely and simply because it's Brock Lesnar at the moment. We're giving it to Stephanie because she won her title and she deserves it. So let's give it to her. She's been our star for many a week.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time. I know it was a bit of a weird weekend, but that's another one down, and we've got Crown Jewel in 3 weeks. We look forward to seeing Raw Ramblings tomorrow. And you've got a nice little project in the pipeline that we're really looking forward to seeing, but more to come on that. So, team, have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, I'd also like to mention I'm also going to do something on NXT this week, and I will be checking out TNA because I will be watching NXT No Mercy next weekend. So I'll give you a review for that one.
Well, thanks, Tim, and I will see you soon.
I'll see you later, guys.